Hello, and welcome back to Where There's a Will, There's a Burnden Way for episode 9. I hope everyone's had a good week, as always. It's been a good week on the Bolton front and elsewhere too, bar one minor personal blip, but I think I'll probably gloss over that. Without further ado, let's see what's been happening this week in the world of Will and the Wanderers, shall we? Starting with Monday as normal then. Fortunately in terms of content, but unfortunately topically, Ian Everett came out and critiqued and questioned the negativity of iFollow commentator Gary Henshaw. Whilst he didn't actually name names, he was quick to kind of reassure fans that his strong words weren't aimed at them, but alluded enough to who it was aimed at, and we all knew obviously exactly who he was talking about. I have to say I have to agree with Everett. I'm the first person to kind of critique the iFollow coverage, where appropriate and fair, of course, if it's fair to do so. Whilst I think generally it's a pretty subpar service in terms of the production quality, it still allows us to watch games at the end of the day. I haven't got a problem with the main commentator, Derek, I think he's called, but I do have a bone to pick with the co-commentators who recently have been particularly critical and negative about the team, as I say, even just recently, which does amaze me, to be honest, and I think that was mainly Ian Everett's point. I don't really know how anyone could be so negative at the moment were his words, and I entirely echo that. Whilst I'd love the club to, or at least I think the club could revamp the service entirely from a commercial perspective and a commentary perspective, but obviously it'll do, I think, until we can return to the ground, which hopefully isn't too far off now. Yes, I think it should have been addressed earlier, but I don't think it's really worth doing now, given I'm hoping that most of it will become surplus to requirements eventually, including myself. I don't think I'll be watching it for too much longer unless I can't make an away game, for example, so kind of naturally the relevance will fade. There was bigger fish to fry anyway, especially with Oldham coming up on Tuesday, so before I start to be too doom and gloom myself, let's move on, shall we? So in much more positive news, Rico Santos signed a new deal with Wanderers on Monday too, keeping him at the club until 2023. Very happy with that one. He's been a standout player so far this season. He's one of the best in the division, and he deserves to be playing at least one step higher, which I hope he'll be able to do with us next year. It was also sadly the passing, or the anniversary of the passing of the former club commentator Dave Higson. Speaking of commentators, how we'd love him to be covering our games still. He was before my time, but I have heard various clips, and I have to say it's far better than what we have now. No competition really, though. I would say that Jack Dearden is probably about the modern day equivalent of him. I wish we could get the J.R. Martins to cover the iFollow, but anyway, I'm getting distracted. I did, of course, actually use Dave Higson's famous catchphrase coincidentally in last week's show, not actually realising it was almost 16 years since he'd passed, though a little incorrectly, as one eagle-eyed viewer noticed, or whatever the equivalent is for listening out for something like that. It's ding-dong-do, not ding-dang-do, as I said. And as I tweeted on Monday, he's fondly remembered by all associated with Bolton Wanderers. On to Tuesday then, match day, Oldham away. I was playing catch up for most of the day actually, after a brief trip to hospital in the middle of the night. Before that, which had messed up my sleeping pattern somewhat. Thankfully it was nothing serious, and I hadn't missed much on the Wanderers front either whilst I'd been asleep for most of the day. But yeah, I think the team was actually pretty much kept the same from last Saturday. Just one change in which we've seen Everett switch around Nathan Delfonso and Lloyd Isgrove recently, with Fon starting. I have to say it was one of the most convincing and comfortable performances I've seen all season, to be honest. Dominated absolutely from start to finish. Probably could have and should have had 4 or 5 by the end of it, but we ran out 2-0 victors in the end, and thanks to an Oldham own goal and a record-breaking 13th Owen Doyle goal of the campaign. That's the most any Wanderer has scored in a league season for 20 years. That's a stat for you all there. Obviously, it did help that Oldham were a man down early on after an awful challenge on Delfonso, and although we didn't take a massive advantage of the extra man, we did continue to control the game with plenty of possession as usual, and that Doyle goal did kill the game off. So yeah, that took us up to 6th. So good stuff as far as that was concerned. Wednesday was actually a very quiet one this week, nothing of note, so I think we'll go straight on to Thursday, which was Evo's pre-Bradford presser. Of course, the other informed team in the league, almost matching our winning run, one behind us with 5. Looking to level the score on Saturday, but I think we felt pretty confident going into it too. And whilst I think most would have been happy with a draw pre-kick-off, I think Evo was certainly after all 3 points. I also thanked everyone for their support on the podcast so far on Twitter on Thursday, and asked if there was any other content or guests you wanted to see, and I got a great response. It was much appreciated. I'll be looking to get guests on as soon as I can and assure that the quality will be good enough. I know it can put people off if it's not the best, so please bear with me, but I promise you won't have to put up with just me for too much longer. So let's go on to Friday, which marks a couple of occasions actually. Firstly, it was Dennis Politik's 21st birthday, so happy birthday to him, belated one. I obviously hope to see him back in the side soon. It also actually marked 8 years since that Chris Eagles goal against Blackburn, which, if memory serves, was actually the same night that Ronaldo returned to Old Trafford for the first time since he left United with Real Madrid. But I remember it mainly actually for being the first time I'd probably cried happy tears for the club since probably my first ever game as a 5-year-old. That feeling of a last minute winner is just unrivalled. Unfortunately, I've shed many a sad tear since. Also, obviously, some intimate and happy ones, such as the Wilbur moment. But I think I'd only actually become emotional before that in a bad way at Wembley. The FA Cup semi-final against Stoke in 2011, which of course we don't talk about. Anyway, before I get too nostalgic, Friday also saw Jack Hickman depart on loan for non-league side Kings Lynn. Evidently another Tobias Phoenix signing, not in Ian Everett's plans, having not featured since early in the season, despite somewhat actually impressing the fans, and unfortunately was even rumoured to have been deregistered from playing for us prior to him leaving. I think that was, though, aiding to free up a space in the squad. It's another one I'm sad to see go, actually, as I was with George Taft. 2 players who deserved a chance at Wanderers, despite them obviously not being Everett signings. I'm sure they'll shine elsewhere, as Taft is already proven to at Scunthorpe, and likewise I'm sure Jack will too. So all the best to him, and I'm sure it's not the last we see of him in a white shirt. Saturday was of course the biggie though, match day, Bradford away. It was the 2 informed teams in the league, as I said earlier, meeting at a crucial stage in the season. But unfortunately it was rather an anticlimax, though it was somewhat expected. Neither side came out on top, and as a result bragging rights weren't issued either way. It was a 1-1 draw in the end. The bragging rights though were close to going Bolton's way, but a 93rd minute equaliser put a stop to that, unfortunately. Gave Bradford that overwhelming feeling of joy that I touched on earlier, right at the death, but only in exchange for a point. I think Bolton fans will agree with me in saying that we actually deserved to win that game. I think Bradford were actually quite lucky to get anything out of it, having kind of looked to settle for a point by half time, but that's just football sometimes. We go again, obviously on Tuesday, still 9 games unbeaten, I believe it is, but it doesn't get any easier. Cambridge, it's another tough test, followed by quickly Port Vale on Saturday, who I'm sure are still living off that 6-3 win over us earlier in the season, but I'm sure it would be a different story this time round, given our current run of form as opposed to theirs. Fingers crossed. Anyway, now I think that's enough waffle for me for another week. So thank you very much for joining me for episode 9. If you have enjoyed, you can subscribe, like, comment, share and all that good stuff wherever you listen to me. It'd be much appreciated, as I said earlier. You can follow me on Twitter, that's at WTAWTABW or WIL1J, and it's the same for the podcast everywhere else. And as ever, for all business inquiries, do get in touch via email, and that's WTAWTABW@gmail.com. So as I said, thank you very much for listening to episode 8 of Where There's a Will, There's a Burnden Way, and I will catch you next week on Sunday the 14th of March, Mother's Day, for episode 10. Bye now.